Just got out here. Everything's so quiet. It's great. Parked along the dirt road leading in. There's the car. Once I get out and set up, I'm going to do some pottery, maybe some fishing. They're both at the same spot. I get the clay and the fish from the same spot. Check this out. It's a gigantic spruce tree. See, the neat thing about these is the early settlers, a lot of them died from lack of vitamin C. They got sick and diseased and stuff. And they didn't realize that you could take the needles of spruce trees and you can make a tea out of them that's high in vitamin C. Like very high in vitamin C, from what I have been told. And I'm going to take some of this and do just that when I get to the campsite. Here's another fork in the path, just another scenic spot. People don't realize the peace and solitude you can get out here. It's just so quiet. It gets you back to your roots, realizing what is really important, what you need, what you don't need, and all the stuff of modern day life that is just there to keep people busy. Check that pack out. I didn't weigh it this time. I'm not even sure how much it weighs, but I think it's less than I took up Mount Washington. This is just one of the many sites along the way. Doubt there's any fish in it. It looks kind of shallow, but there could be some small brookies or something in the pools. The deeper points, like right down there. I'm in a pine barren over here. It's funny, nothing obviously grows under pines except other pines. But even in a place like this, where it looks like there's nothing going on, you can actually get something to eat if you had to. See, I'm just doing this for educational purposes. I brought Mountain House meals with me. I'm not Survivor Man show or anything, but it is nice to at least have some kind of knowledge of this stuff in case you ever had to use it. Like right here. This is a piece of the bark from a white pine. That's the outer bark. That's the inner bark. The inner bark is called the cambium layer. That cambium layer is actually edible, but I mean, pine is really sappy, so you're almost better off warming it up over a fire to make it crispy, and it takes some of that out of it. But there's a lot of starches and stuff in this. You can't live off it, but it'll at least give you something. I'm still trekking through the pine barrens here, following the trail out to the shelter. It's snowing a little bit, mixed with rain. It got me thinking when I was getting out of the car. Good thing I got my saw and all that. I have a compact camping saw and a little, it's called a woodsman's pal. It's sort of like a machete with a hook on the end to split wood and cut brush, that kind of stuff. But I'm glad I brought my own tinder out here, because everything's pretty wet and damp. Even the stuff that's tucked away, because the snow's sticking to it. It's wet snow. So I'm pretty prepared. I got one of those ferrocerium rods, Swiss fire steel it's called. If you're talking to my coworkers, they'd say I brought everything, including the TV, the microwave. I mean, granted, I do have a lot of stuff on my back, but every bit of it's well thought out and useful, so I have to make sure I can find some mountain laurels. If you can get some dead mountain laurels from out here that are tucked away with all the leaves off them, obviously, because they're dead, but you can cut those up. They make really good kindling to start a fire after you've used your tinder to get one going. So I brought some dried grass from the house that I found a while back, put it in a Ziploc bag to keep it dry, and I think there might even be some birch bark in there. That's something I might find out here, but birch bark, even if it's wet, it can catch a fire because it's full of oil and stuff. So those ought to help. If I see any birch bark flaking off any birch trees out here, if I come across one, I'll add that to the pile too. I always love coming across old colonial sites out here in New England. It's just so cool to think about what happened in the 1700s, 1600s, when this area was first settled by the Europeans. Well, originally by the Native Americans, but as far as we know, you know, you know what I mean. Trying to be politically correct. It's such a pain. You're like tongue-tied. Here, check this out. Some of that looks like a foundation right there, off straight ahead to the left a little bit, next to that wall. And back here, down in there, this was all set like that for some reason, maybe, who knows. One of the few little animals you can hear around here is the chickadees. That they usually hop around in little groups. There they are on that set of pine trees right there, picking away for bugs and stuff. They're hibernating for the winter. You don't see much out here as far as wildlife and stuff goes. I mean, they're here. There's deer out there. You can see signs for them here and there, but you never run across any. The chickadees are funny because they don't fear people at all. Obviously, because they're so tiny, people don't ever hunt them for food or anything, so they have nothing to worry about. I'm out here following a section of the Pachaug Trail north of my house a few miles. They mark off the trails for Pachaug. This is the Pachaug State Forest in Connecticut on the eastern half of the state. It's also the largest forest in Connecticut, making up, I think, somewhere around 26,000 acres. But there's the markers on the trees. You just keep an eye out for those. And right now, obviously, the trail looks pretty easy to follow, but there are some spots up ahead that kind of overgrew a little bit. This section of Pachaug's less traveled by people than some of the other parts. Green Falls is south of my house. There's a campground out there. There's a campground, Mount Misery, to the west that a lot of people use. There's also a shelter near that one. Both of those, actually, Green Falls and Mount Misery, and those ones get used a little more highly. There's a fourth backpacking shelter that I believe it's over in Stonington near Billings Lake, but it's sort of off by itself. You got to go out into the end of a dead-end street where there's a neighborhood, and there's a small trail that leads you up there. It's almost on a outlook mountain sort of thing. Not a mountain, it's not that big, but I mean it's pretty steep at the edges. That was a neat one. I think it was built by Scouts or something. They have a plaque on that one. Here's another one of the little streams that runs through this area, winding down there. This one's interesting. I noticed it last time too. This set of rocks right here, obviously put there a long time ago, but it almost looks as if this was a way to divert the stream to use the water as sort of a mill or something a long time ago. You can see the main course back there, and you can see down here where it had been, looks like, diverted and then dried up from disuse. It goes up the hill there by that snow-covered branch. Yeah, here's a better angle on that. The river down there, the stone wall stacked up on both sides here. And right where I'm at, there's a big squared off stone, sort of like an entrance or place to let the water through. And then more recently, another one of these state forest bridges that the state puts in here, the DEP, to make my life a little easier. This one's a better sized river. There's probably fish in this one. I know in the summertime this is still here. It doesn't dry up during the drought seasons. We've got some cedar trees right up in here. Here I am, I'm almost at a edge habitat where two habitats meet. Obviously here's the pine barrens that I'm still in, and then if you look by that snow line out there, that's where the hardwoods start, the oaks and maples and some beeches mixed in there. And then up ahead, I don't know if you can see it on this camera, but that white patch out there where it's sort of a clearing, that's where I'm headed. The shelter should be on the back side of that, the opposite side from where I'm at here. And this just goes on and on that way. I made it out to the pond. The shelter's on. That's it right there. The pine's end over here. And they start up again on the other side, but there's this tract in the middle here of, looks like there is some birch in there, right over on the other side of that little, I think it's the dam they put up here. So you just follow the sand up there on that big path, and where the levee is, around the corner to the right, and then shelter's tucked in right back over there. You can tell how much of a mild winter we've been having. The pond here is almost completely thawed out. Check it out. If you notice right in front of me here, where it is still frozen a little bit, sometime in the past, not too long ago, someone had been tossing the rocks out there to test the strength of the ice to see if they could get out on it, I'm supposing. Smart move. I mean, a rock isn't going to equal your weight, but at least it's better than just walking out there. You have to toss a pretty big rock to equal the weight of a person. and just the force of tossing it would probably just go through anyway.